son mummified his own mother, and she stayed with him in this state for about 3 years. Vladimir Lysenko, a short 60-year-old Yessentuki, went on. He didn't look like a pensioner at all and worked in a sex shop, and he lived mostly on the second floor of the sex shop. Yessentuki appeared very rarely in his 3-room apartment on the outskirts, and if he came there, it was always by tours. In 2006, Vladimir's father died. He reacted very unpleasantly to his funeral. It seemed wild to him to bury a body underground. After that, he did not appear at his grave at all, and at the time when this story was revealed, it was almost abandoned. Moreover, the man said that after his father's death, the shelves in his apartment suddenly began to fall sharply, and he thought that he had been accidentally buried alive. And he was showing signs of life. And all this time, Lysenko had a living sister who was not interested in her mother's fate at all, saying that her brother had turned her mother against a woman and stopped communicating with her, and generally found out that her mother had died the day before the women's program. She lived in St. Petersburg. The male-female program was based on this story, but I'll tell you everything in this video. Vladimir had a mother, Lyudmila Alexandrovna, who was 90 years old. After her husband's death around 2007, she began to freak out specifically. I went outside naked, turned on the gas in the apartment, and got lost. With this, I had to go to her apartment several times a day to check if she had turned on the gas. All the neighbors bought her groceries, and in 2007, the neighbors called the man and said, "We will sue you because you abandoned your mother," and he flies to her from St. Petersburg. At first, the son took the old woman to the balcony, where she sat like a lifeless body and did not react to the voice of others, but later it stopped. At first, Vladimir really took good care of his mother. But then there were some alarm bells. For example, when the neighbors came to her one day, there was some kind of green mess in her plate, and when asked what it was, she said that it was herbs that Volodya brought her. Well, in general, someone says that he took great care of her, bought her the most expensive diapers, and took great care of her, and someone says that he did not do it at all. Later, when the neighbors started asking how Lyudmila Alexandrovna was, the man began to say that he had sent the old woman to a summer cottage in Sochi. But everyone was shocked because she didn't move at all, and he was in Yessentuki. Then the man began to reject the neighbors' questions and constantly began to promise that he would pick up his mother soon. But he didn't pick her up, and the neighbors turned to the local police officer. And one day there was a terrible stench in the house. The neighbors said they were living with a corpse, but then chalked it up to a woman who lived with 6 dogs. We said we lived next to the corpse, but our precinct officers changed one by one, says another neighbor, Lyudmila Alexandrovna. So the precinct officer found Vladimir at work and brought him to his house. The apartment was completely cluttered, and one room was sealed and even taped shut. And Vladimir said he didn't have a key. After opening the room, the dried-up body of an old woman was discovered. They were just terrified, and Vladimir told me that once, as a child, he dried a fish by sprinkling it with salt, and when his mother died, in 2013 she stopped showing signs of life. He at first thought that she would wake up, but when he realized that a cadaverous smell was appearing, he decided to mummify her. I got a heater and a huge amount of salt, closed the room and began to sprinkle salt and connect the heater. The body was mummified. I reject the tradition of burial. My mother was a saint, and I didn't want her to spoil and be eaten by worms. The man himself says that it became very difficult for him to enter the room and basically live next door to the corpse. He already understood perfectly well that he was not living with his mother, and all this time he continued to receive her pension in the amount of 16,000. But he understood that it was illegal to do this, and then when everything was revealed, he would have to give it to the state. All this disappeared in 2015. Vladimir escaped punishment, and he was only ordered to return his own pension. How do you like this story? In my opinion, this is wild. Write about whom to tell in the comments next. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Be careful, healthy and happy, and bye to everyone.